Good morning, everyone. Welcome to The Huddle. We are in day 6 of war with Iran, and we're going to talk about the latest on that. But we actually have some spicy gossip for you in the show today, back here on the home front. Mr. Sean Spicer called it yesterday, but it turns out that Kristi Noem, the DHS secretary, is in hot water for some of her comments to Congress when she was testifying this week. And not just with Republicans or Democrats, but with the president, who is apparently calling people and asking, should he fire her? We're going to talk about that, as well as what's going on, the latest with Iran, the White House being concerned and freaking out about negative coverage of what's going on over there. Susie Wiles apparently very concerned about gas prices. We'll talk about Republicans going after Pam Bondi, a little surprise there. Steve Daines' very sudden retirement announcement yesterday that was quickly followed by his endorsement of somebody else who filed within, a couple of minutes of the filing deadline.
8 minutes before the filing deadline. It's a lot of action right before.
Total clear coordination. By the way, the president endorsed this person right after. Clear coordination. We'll discuss that. And we'll also talk about the DOJ apparently abandoning this case they were trying to put together against Biden and his aides for the use of the Autopen. But before we jump in, let's let Sean Spicer take a bow, because he wasn't just right on the Kristi Noem situation here. He also called that the president's going to endorse John Cornyn, which he hasn't done so yet, but there is reporting by multiple outlets that the president's going to endorse Cornyn, and you heard it first here on The Huddle.
Hold on a second.
Say I told you so.
Hold on. You didn't just, because a lot of people Wednesday morning were saying Trump is going to endorse Cornyn. Full context. Sean said it Tuesday morning when most people were.
Monday morning. Monday morning, Dan.
Sorry, Monday morning.
Monday morning.
When people were talking about the degree to which Paxton would win, right? So anyway, Sean, full context about how right you were.
Well, and just to be clear,
I want to go to your head, Sean.
No. But I want to be clear about two things. One, first of all, thank you for that. Second, it wasn't me, and I want to make sure, because I hate it when reporters I have a great source that listens to the show that's very in the know, as do all of us. And that's why I think when people watch the show, what they're getting that no one else does. We get tips while we're watching the show. I got one the other day. I put it out. And it's funny how 24 hours later, other people are saying there was a scoop. And I'm like, we have it on videotape. If you want to know what's happening before it happens, watch the DC Huddle.
Absolutely true. It's just the legacy media, they're threatened by us, man. I mean, just new media in general. It's really hard to get credit. I've noticed anytime I have a scoop.
But the beautiful thing about this, Rachel, is that, the way that the world works now, you have a timestamp when you put something out on your newsletter. Right. And for all these people who say, oh, well, I don't know when you said it, I tweeted it out this morning. Here's the timestamp of Monday morning. I think it was 56 minutes and 30 seconds roughly into the show. When we brought that up, somebody was watching live, shared that tip with us. And so that you can't debate it anymore. You can't go, well, technically we had a source, whatever. We put it out Monday morning, 24, probably 36 hours before.
Yeah, it was more than 24. Mm-hmm.
So Sean, you're not just sitting around looking at politics and polls and talking to sources. You like to party, right? Let's be honest. Look at Sean, you say party. Sean, if you're not following Sean on social media, or Rachel or myself on Instagram, somebody rocked it out to Journey last night. Sean, give us the backstage experience, and why don't you just show everyone your attire today while you're at it? Yeah.
Oh my God.
If you don't
I honestly think, by the way, I think this is the first concert T-shirt I've ever bought in my life, and I may have bought a U2 one when I was 18. First concert I ever went to at Foxborough Stadium. But I do think that last night's concert, and kudos to John Kane, the amazing keyboardist and lyricist who took us back, brought us down to say hi before the show. I was joking as we were walking through. If you're old enough to remember Wayne's World, we were with the band. It was surreal. And by the way, Journey, they are all over. What an amazing show. You forget how many hits they've had over 50 years. So I put it all up on.
And your favorite is what? What is your favorite?
You can't look. I will say this. I'm one of these people, by the way, that I can't help myself. So I'm Googling, as you know, everything now is crowdsourced. So I'm like, what is the set list? February 24th set list. They played Don't Stop Believing, I think the third song. And I'm like, uh-oh. They closed DC last night, and I put it up on Instagram on my story if you want to see it. Ending that show, they played every hit that you can imagine, right? And then they ended Who's Crying Now. There were different lyricists that John sang a couple. They had a guy from Nashville that was on the keyboards as well, who sang some songs. Then they've got that new 10 years now lead singer. But to end the farewell tour, well, DC edition, with Don't Stop Believing, I was like, I'm done. This is it. Like, what a...
Rachel, are you a concert person, Rachel?
Pardon? Am I a concert person?
Yeah.
I'll go to a concert. I don't ever think about it.
Favorite concert though? What do you have?
I don't know.
I love live music.
Sean, what's your favorite?
Well, look, I feel like it's not fair. I am Christopher Cross will never, ever, like, there's something about that guy. The original 1971 Flamingo album puts a smile on my face. Everything from Ride Like the Wind to obviously Sailing. I go see him every single year. This year, I'll probably see him twice. He's coming to Boston this summer with Toto. You want to talk about a band with history.
Hello.
We're going to switch.
I saw the Rolling Stones in London in the old Wembley.
Okay, so I can't say I've ever been to a concert that is like that ground.
Yeah. Oh no! Like I saw.
Shaking.
I see Steve is in the chat. I saw Van Morrison last year. By the way, listen, I've seen Van Morrison a handful of times. I saw him last year at Wolf Trap, which is probably my favorite venue in the world.
Yeah, it's a great one.
But he is not. He's showing his age. And I did see. I will say this: when I was in Vegas, I went to the Sphere. I know we're way off topic here. And the only thing playing was Wizard of the Oz, which I still went and saw because some friends of mine said it's worth going to see. It is an amazing, amazing venue. And I would go back just to see a band play there because
that's what everyone says. Yeah.
It's
all right. Back to the war.
Wizard of Oz was cool, just to be clear.
I don't even know who that is.
Already was like, I want to see a music. So sorry. I'm being told we got to move on.
We definitely need to move on. And somebody wrote in the chat that I'm a Backstreet Boys person. I would absolutely go to that. Absolutely. Never been, but I would totally go. Just,
I do know from Dancing with the Stars. I do know Joey Fatone. If you ever want to NSYNC, I can get you probably.
Okay. I go to that too. Let's do it. Okay. We have to move on. This is not a pop culture, podcast and show, but that was a fun little detour. Okay. Daybook today, 10 a.m. The Pentagon Policy Chief Elbridge Colby will be testifying this time before the House Armed Services Committee. He was over in the Senate side just a couple of days ago. 1 o'clock, GOP conference chair Lisa McClain and the lead of the House Intelligence Committee are going to be holding a press conference on DHS funding. I am surprised we haven't heard more about DHS coming out of Capitol Hill. They should definitely be, pounding the drum on that and reopening DHS. 4 o'clock, the White House or the House is going to be voting on the War Powers resolution from Ro Khanna and Thomas Massey. Yesterday, we should note that only one Republican
and one Democrat flipped. Yep.
Yeah, one Republican flipped.
Fetterman and Paul.
Do you think they lose? How many Republicans do you think they lose today, Sean, in the House? Thomas Massey, for sure, right?
Right.
Massey. I think you might see 3. I'm just saying because you never know. There's 2. But I think the bigger number is how many Dems vote with.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. Is it over under 7?
Yeah,
over under 7. Okay,
I'll move that, Dan. I think you get more than 10.
You do? Okay. All right. I'd go under 10, but not by a lot.
Because even Republicans like Collins and Murkowski were with the president on this. So I agree. Like there's going to be a number of Democrats who are there. Okay, 4 o'clock. The president hosts the 2025 Major League Soccer champions from Miami at the White House. Either of you guys?
By the way, you do realize the whole is Messi going to be there or not?
Obviously, hello.
Is he going to be there?
Rachel. Oh, gosh. Yes. Hours over right now, apparently. Yeah. Oh, well, the other thing, by the way,
I know nothing about sports.
Is if the World Cup comes up, because it's getting a little awkward on some of this about the funding that they owe for security. Sean, you're Foxborough saying they will not give the license until they get the money, and there are other cities threatening the same thing.
You know how you get Sean involved? Sean, I literally got the lottery. I did the lottery like every other person, and I have 4 tickets to the Foxborough. It's like Uzbekistan versus someone.
Yeah, who cares?
Right, exactly.
Right.
That was my point. So I certainly care about the fun. I'm calling Andrew Giuliani. I'm going to get on this.
Nice.
So guys, we've seen a spike in our numbers, which is great. But if you're watching the show right now, go to our YouTube page at the DC Huddle, subscribe. If you've already done it, send it to somebody, get them to subscribe too. Our numbers are going up. We want to keep them going up. So this is great. Really appreciate you doing it. And let's do a quick word about Cozy Earth before we jump in. Sean?
Well, speaking of jumping in last night, Rachel, I got home and it was funny. It's Journey. So they started at like 7:34, 7:35, and they were over just after like 9:30, this was like the perfect concert for me to go to. But the first thing I did when I got home, I switched right into, now I couldn't wear joggers to Journey. I thought that was a little too much. I could have probably gotten away with
too informal for you. Okay.
Well, I could have, but it wasn't hip enough. And when you know me, it's hip and cool. So I switched right into my Cozy Earth pajamas and I have a t-shirt. I was ready to go to bed and man, my head hit the pillow. I woke up feeling so excited and then switched right back into the joggers. So I'm telling you, I say it all the time. If you're a work at home kind of person, or you just want something around the weekend, you cannot go wrong with anything from Cozy Earth, from the joggers to the pajamas, to the pants, sheets, towels, candles, eye masks, and it's the greatest gift ever. You will never go wrong. CozyEarth.com. Use our code HUDDLE, 20% off site-wide. Some exclusions do apply. Data and message rates apply. Oh, wait, that's the wrong one.
Thanks to Cozy Earth. So let's get into it. The military has, without a doubt, the U.S. military had real success in its operation over Iran, dominating the skies. They've helped Israel take out some of the most barbaric leaders we've seen in the past few decades who have been state sponsors of terrorism. But they are struggling right now with the public message, right? I am hearing, and there has been reporting, that there are frustrations in the White House right now that all the coverage is negative right now, despite this sort of once-in-a-generation opportunity here. And despite knowing how the story is going to end, everything is negative right now, at least with most of the media. Dan, I know you have been critical. There's a lot of questions that you said need to be answered. They need to be answered better by this White House. But do you think they have a point here in terms of their frustration over the coverage?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's look, some of this is, and I know this is, Democrats are going to start ripping their hair out. Some of this is just the media does not like Donald Trump. And I think that, as I've said, because they didn't lay the predicate and the foundation with the kind of the country heading into this, there is a lot of unanswered questions, right? Why do we go in? What is the end game? And those are legitimate questions to ask. And the administration is, struggling to provide clear answers. But that does not change the fact that, one, we are, if you were to look at trend lines, they are very strong for the administration. Where we are today is every day they're degrading Iran's capabilities more and more. They are taking out these leaders. There is very little coverage about the fact that what they are doing is instilling paranoia in the leadership in hope that they break. They just say, that's it. I don't want to be the next one killed. And so I do think they do have a point that the media is just hostile to Trump. And I think they smell a little blood in the water that because the administration can't provide consistent, clear answers, like they're going to get Trump and they're going to kind of catch the big, reveal. And therefore they're frustrated. But again, some of this is without a doubt of their own making, but they do have a point with what they're saying.
Sean, if you could advise the White House to change one thing about how they're messaging all this, what would you say? What should they do or shouldn't be doing?
Yeah, great question. I would say get a narrative, why you're doing it, why it matters, and everybody sticks to it. I mean, and I know that that sounds very, but there are different interests, right? So the Pentagon, and General Kane does a really good job when he gets up there and says, I'm here today to focus on this. So he's very clear about what his lane is. That's understandable. He's a uniformed officer. But for the politicals, from the Secretary of State to Defense to everyone else, they need to say, here are the three messages that we want to get out. 1, 2, 3. And everything bridges back to those three messages and nothing else. And tell the surrogates, like I said, they did a fantastic job the other day of really getting everybody out there and blitzing, right? But this is when you want to have surrogate calls every morning. Right. I would be up on, I mean, like before the State of the Union, right? People had always, I did it when I was in Vegas. They were like, hey, it's the day of State of the Union. What would you have been doing? And I was like, okay, go up to the Hill. We hold these briefings. Then we get on a surrogate call. We have this. We bring in people. We do, I mean, you bring in the news anchors. Your idea is to flood the zone, get everybody to know, here are 4 or 5 top things that we want you to know. Here are the facts that we want you to highlight, et cetera. Getting that out there right now consistently, because what is happening is because it's not cohesive, right? Dan's right. They want it. They don't want to like you. I will say this. I said this about Midnight Hammer and frankly, all 3 of Trump's, the operations that he's greenlight, Midnight Hammer, Absolute Resolve, and Epic Fury. Honest to God, they will all 3 go down as war college textbook kind of operations. The precision, the jointness, and what is not discussed, like the coordination with the Israelis on what happened the other night. Again, this is unprecedented. And so what I'm saying is there should be stories, just solo stories, like military, like the training and preparation and execution was flawless. That in itself deserves, and so there's 2 things. One, they hate Trump, and B, I'm going to just say this because very few Americans, less than 1%, have any relationship with the military anymore, and even fewer in the media. And so when you have no idea about it, you tend to ignore it. And I think for most of these folks, they're afraid to cover it because they don't know it.
Sean, can I give another?
That is.
Yeah, let me add something, because this is where I also think that they're making a mistake. You go back to previous wars, and every day the military leadership would soberly brief on what's happening, right? And the media would kind of sit there because most of them haven't served. These figures tend to be kind of very, alpha. I think one of the things they're also making a mistake is when they brief on the military success, Hegseth tends to go first, and it's a very political thing, right? The fact that he got up the other day and started talking about the fake media and you people out, if they would just put Dan Kane out there and some other,
that's generally, I mean, just so you know, like that is pretty protocol that the political leadership. I hear you,
but he's not a traditional Secretary of War.
But to your point, Sean, and telling the stories, getting some of those stories about, whether the training, the hours that went into preparation, maybe some of the stories of the heroes, et cetera. Like you work with the press, get one of those reporters in, like talk to them on background, give them an exclusive. And then all of a sudden you're on the front page of like the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. Little sugar goes further than, the hammer on this.
Right. It's that every single day they are moving the ball forward. And again, the trend lines are, they have, 80% fewer rockets being launched, the number of sites we've hit. Like every day, feed the media beast of the success that you're having and the progress, right? So try to stretch it out into every day they're weaker. Every day we're getting more dominant. The noose is tightening on the leadership. Instead, because it is this scatter shot, and half the time when they go at the press gets defensive, right? When Hegseth goes in there, guns blazing, they're like, all right, where can we get you? As opposed to just these sober, and then to Sean's point, release your hounds with the influencers to go after people, but it's a double barrel. Instead, it's just, it appears there is no coordinated game plan every day. And that would be worrying to me if I were the White House.
It's like they need 2 war rooms. I mean, like the war room for the war,
but
then the war room for the message here back in the public. There's like a clean and easy segment here into the economic anxiety that all of this is creating, right? So yes, the White House is concerned about like the message of the war, but they are just as concerned about the price at the pump right now. There's reporting this morning that Susie Wiles has told members of the cabinet, bring her ideas like right now, like yesterday, how to offset the spike we're already starting to see and will likely continue to see at the pump. She apparently has been pressing Energy Secretary Chris Wright. This report in Politico today suggesting that Wright has actually been screamed at, doesn't say by who, but that somebody's getting in trouble and saying, bring ideas. They're looking at a potential gas tax holiday. Excuse me. But there's no guarantee Congress would pass that, number one. And there's no guarantee that the companies would actually pass that relief down onto the consumer. So, Sean, this is obviously problematic because the president has made prices at the pump a central part to his success so far, and also to the midterm messaging. How did they not think about this before going into this situation? I mean, you would think that would be something they had already planned for in terms of offsetting prices.
It's not that you don't think about it. You can't, I mean, you don't know, is the Strait of Hormuz going to be completely shut off? Is it, I mean, we've done tanker patrols in the past, not to this extent, not with this threat. But my point is, you can't predict how the market's going to react, because part of it is going to react to how many ships are getting through. And I mean, this is the big issue with what the president said the other day. They're going to offer insurance and security, but whether you're MCC or Maersk or whatever, you still have to worry about your cargo and the personnel and your captains, like that are driving that ship. So it's not as simple as just saying, hey, we're going to insure the ship. The companies then have to agree that it's worth it for them, that it's worth the risk. I think that they knew this was going to happen. They just didn't probably know to what extent, because it's not entirely predictable. But I think that they're handling it right now, which is okay. We recognize this. Look, I've said this on every other thing, and I'll say it just again. This is going to depend. If we're having this discussion in 4-6 weeks, it's a very different situation that if by next week we've secured that whole area and there's a free flow of commercial traffic through the strait. That's a very, very different situation. The other thing that, again, we don't want to talk about, and this is what is important, is that right now you're really having an economic impact on China. And that's.
Let's come back to
China
in a second.
Though,
because I want to hear, Dan, like, what are Democrats going to do to seize on this?
What
are they doing already?
Yeah, I mean, I respectfully to Sean, this was 100% predictable. It is what people have talked about for 30 years if you went to war with Iran or Iraq or anybody. This issue of the strait and this issue of global oil supply. Bloomberg was writing about this for the last month as the drumbeat of buildup was like, what are we going to do? Here's the problem. They clearly did not think about this, because Caroline Leavitt yesterday could not answer with any detail what the insurance program is going to be for the tankers. We don't have the assets yet there to provide the naval escorts. They're rushing them out there. And what's even more worrying now is the Iranians hit a tanker that was being loaded with oil. And now there is talk that these companies forget loading it and sitting there waiting for cover to get out. Now they're saying we may not even load the tankers because it's a security risk that they could be blown up and sunk sitting at the port. So I think the White House does have a problem. And this goes to the fact that J.D. Vance yesterday in a Washington Post interview tried to again move the goalpost to say, well, it was totally unrealistic for anyone to think that we could do stuff quickly. And it's just going to take a lot more time to fix the Biden, from the Biden economy. I've said this before. Inflation and everything peaked in June of 2022. When they came into office, things weren't good. They weren't terrible. So it's just remained kind of blah. And so the problem is you're telling people, oh, it was absolutely horrible January 19th. And then January 20th, it was starting to get better and it's getting better. It's like, no, it's still blah. And I think tomorrow, I want to just flag this. I think it's going to be a good jobs report tomorrow. And I don't think anyone's going to hear about it because of all this. And that's the irony right now.
So the White House had said 2026 was when we'd start to feel it.
Well, hold on. That was not the message last spring and summer. It was in the fall. They started talking about 2026.
It was in November, actually. Yeah.
So that.
Go ahead, Sean,
but remember, look. I just, context is important. I know that this is what we do every day, and that's important. But I also say we're in day 5, day 6 of this skirmish, and therefore we need to keep all that in context, because if like I said, it could get way worse. It could also get way better. But at the end of the day, when people start to think about who to vote for in July and August of this summer, if the economy is doing well and we can project that we've actually secured Iran, everything's going well, and frankly, the White House, there are at least some people who economically think that because the threat of Iran being able to dictate oil flow would be gone, you might actually benefit from this. If that's the case, I think we're in really good shape. And I've said this about the economy, if not, then all of your chips are pushed on that side of the table, and you're going to get screwed.
Yeah, I just think it's more chaos and uncertainty. They just cannot get out of the way of this. And so companies are sitting around right now saying, well, okay, let's see what happens here. To Sean's point, it's only day 5. Let's give it more time. It's just not good.
And just one data point to add here in terms of whether this will get better or worse. It certainly looks like it's going to get worse, at least in the short term. British officials said overnight that one of their oil tankers was attacked, not in the Strait of Hormuz, right off the coast of Kuwait, which suggests that Iran is looking beyond just the Strait of Hormuz. And that's obviously really problematic. Okay, let's move on.
Speaking of problems.
Okay, so let's start with Kristi Noem. We're going to talk about Pam Bondi and Kristi Noem. But the president is asking Hill Republicans, should he fire?
Can we talk about Iran again?
Punchbowl is reporting this morning that the president was not happy with her answer when she was asked by GOP Senator John Kennedy.
Hello, Sean Spicer. Hello.
Whether the president personally signed off on this $220 million expense to put her face all over ads across America touting what she's doing at DHS. She said that he personally signed off on it. We talked about this yesterday. Sean said that was causing some friction behind.
Don't drag him in. You do not. I mean, rule number 1. Like, if she had put ads out that had him, it would be a different story. She put her, like, you spent $220 million on your name ID, on your image, in the Trump administration. I mean, that's like saying that Scott Bessett's going to put his face on the $100 bill. What do you think Trump's going to say?
It's really fascinating. But we also said, beyond you saying that this was angering people behind the scenes, we pointed out that Kennedy's an ally of this White House. There is no way he would do this without it being either sanctioned or talking to someone in the administration. You don't just take shots at, the president's cabinet Rachel, without doing this, right?
I talked to some very senior folks over the last, since our morning episode yesterday. And I relayed the conversation like this, like growing up in Rhode Island, where allegedly there was a mafia presence. We would always hear about sanctioned hits. And I jokingly said to these folks, this seemed like a sanctioned hit, and they all, to a T, sort of laughed and said, yup. Like, this was not, like, when you listened, and I pointed this out yesterday, when Kennedy said, I have my research, or that doesn't comport, that means very clearly that somebody is trying to take her out and do so in a very, like, they knew what would anger the president. They knew what would upset him. There's a lot of things that he will let go that, don't, as long as you're pursuing the agenda, getting results. There's other things when you drag him into something like this. I thought, and Kennedy, by the way, you remember her first answer was, we ran this by all the legal folks. And Kennedy said very lawyerly, that's not what I asked. I asked if you ran it by the president, and she said yes. And by the way, again, one easy mistake. Mr. Kennedy, thank you for your question. I don't reveal my conversations with the president. Those are private. And I mean, there's an easy answer for that. But saying yes, that he signed off on you spending $220 million of your own to put ads of your face riding around in a cowboy hat.
It's also just not true. Again, I reported this in December that he was asking people how much money have gone into these ads. Like, he was concerned about the price tag. So the notion that he personally signed up, it just doesn't make sense. But Dan, I want to come to you in a second, but just very quickly, Sean, the fact that he's asking people, should he fire her? Never good when the president is doing that. And he does do this often, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's a general, like, even if he really likes you, he'll say, how's Marco doing? And everyone knows that Marco's doing amazing, right? But I think the way I like to put it in Trump world is that, when this narrative starts, it's like a wave cresting. Once the wave crests, you can't get back. You're done. And it's just, now it becomes a matter of time. So the issue for Noem isn't that it's imminent by any means. And I'm not, but she is not going to be resurrected. I mean, this is like getting the diagnosis that it's not good. And you have, X amount of months left. And the question is,
Sean, let me ask both of you this then. Right now, there's a DHS shutdown and a war. So you would not want her to depart like right now.
Really good point.
But you also do not want a confirmation hearing in September litigating Minnesota, ICE policy, like all of the scar tissue. You don't want to be picking at that in September. So I would think the window for her to depart is when, let's say this war wraps up in the next 30 days-ish, the DHS shutdown wraps up. I would think between Easter and Memorial Day, 4th of July, she leaves, you get your replacement, and before they recess in August, you get him or her through. Right?
I think that's your first window. Your other window is basically the lame duck session right after the midterms, and try to jam it through.
They can do that quickly. They can do it quickly if they want.
Well, the only risk you have there is, let's say it's so hard to predict. Let's say you lose the Senate, okay? And you got a bunch of Republicans now coming up in 28. And they look at the White House and say, you know what, guys, Trump, you are now truly a lame duck. Like in 2 years, you're out of here. I am running with J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio or whomever. No, I'm going to start looking for ways to
but you're not going to vote against. I mean, like, first of all, if
that department's radioactive, I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't think
you're rolling the dice.
You're not in a Republican. If you were a Republican and didn't vote for the DHS nominee that Trump put forward, you'd have bigger problems.
Yeah, I agree. I want to ask one other thing about her before we go to Bondi. So Democrats yesterday peppered Noem with questions about whether she was sleeping with Corey Lewandowski. Just point blank asked her. She would not answer. I am curious what you both take of that line of questioning. Typically, as a woman in politics, I hate those kinds of questions because there's always accusations about this or that woman in power, and like it's all like most of the time it's BS. But this is different. Obviously, the Wall Street Journal is not going to print just anything, and they actually wrote that there were concerns about this. Is that fair game in a hearing?
I don't think so. I mean, I found it uncomfortable. I think, look, they're trying to say there's a conflict of interest because part of the allegations is that Corey's clients have received preferential treatment. So maybe, but they didn't go there. They didn't say, "Oh, you're sleeping with them," because look, and I think Sean, you and Rachel will agree. People's infidelities in Washington are very wide. There's a lot of shenanigans that go on. Members of Congress, their families aren't there, lobbyists, etc. If this becomes the standard of asking people about rumors of allegations of marital impropriety, I don't know if hearings will ever get to official business.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, it's and the people asking the questions need to be very careful. I'm not saying Jared Moskowitz or the other woman, but I know that with some of the Epstein stuff, there was conversations in certain circles about whether to ask certain members of Congress about their own activity. And it didn't end up happening, but it just, people need to be careful if they're going to go there.
It's definitely a slippery
slope. Be really careful.
Sure.
I'll just say this. I agree. I mean, you've really opened up a can of worms now. Where I mean, I agree with you. If you wanted to go at her like this, the way to go would have been on professional and ethics reasons. Like, do you believe that? Are you scrutinizing these contracts? What is being done? But you know, that was a real, like, you've now kind of set a new low for bar and said, okay, we're now going to talk about your personal sex life. I mean, what's next? Children? I mean, there's like, I'm sorry. Like, every time you do this, you do have to say what's next.
Yeah. And a lot of times, you raise these sorts of things publicly and you're guilty until you're proven innocent in the headlines. It's just, I mean, it's definitely a slippery slope. Okay, let's talk about Pam Bondi real quick because a band of Republicans has joined with Democrats to subpoena her. Nancy Mace offered this subpoena. She wrote that the Attorney General's claims that DOJ has released all of the Epstein files is basically BS. She said the record is clear. They have not. Every Democrat plus Tim Burchett, Michael Cloud, Lauren Boebert, and Scott Perry voted for this subpoena. Dan, I was going to say, is this even a win for Democrats? I guess it is a win for Democrats.
Sure, I mean, it's uncomfortable. I mean, anytime the Attorney General or
Howard Why is it uncomfortable?
Yeah, just like it was uncomfortable for Democrats to talk about the Clintons. It just brought up Bill Clinton again, and it's just you'd rather be talking about gas prices or whatever. So yeah, I think we keep saying this every time we think Epstein is beginning to get in the rearview mirror. It's not. Yeah.
They kick it up again.
It also keeps, it's like they're, Sean talked about the mob earlier. You're working your way up. It's still, there is one figure and his spouse sitting at the top that this is all spiraling up towards. And I cannot figure out why the White House does not get ahead of that.
Sean, why? I mean, Howard Lutnick, now Pam Bondi, like, at what point are they going to say, guys, enough? I guess they can't. Maybe they really can't.
Oh, sure they can. No. This is, look, I said this before. I mean, this is not, there's two things. One, the haphazard nature of this in terms of who they're calling, when they're calling them, the depositions they had with the Clintons. I'm kind of going, what are we doing here? The second thing is, if you really care about Epstein, and you really want justice for these victims, I've said this before, you've got people like Alan Dershowitz that are willing to name names, go and stuff that is begging to be called. Like, I feel like this is a sideshow to some extent, in terms of, like, if you really want to know who some of these people are, then let's get to it. But you're not even calling the right people who are willing to share information about what happened when, who was with whom. To me, I find the whole thing just not, like, embarrassing, as if you really care about the justice for the young women that were trafficked, who were brought into this world, and, by the way, the men who helped perpetrate it. I don't see how we're going about this in a way that's going to achieve that.
Let's turn to our next topic. So Senate 2026, a bunch of political headlines. Steve Daines, former NRSC chair, close ally of the president, announced late last night that he's not seeking a third term. And just minutes before, as we said, this 5 p.m. filing deadline, Kurt, am I saying his last name? Is it Almy or Alm? Kurt Almy, this U.S. attorney in Montana, files to run within minutes of the deadline. Daines endorses him. The president endorses him. It is very clear that there was coordination here. Look, I like Steve Daines. I actually know him pretty well from covering Capitol Hill. But voters have to look at this and say, okay, that's slimy, man. There was clearly, like, a setup here to make sure one person, one Republican, was ahead and had the leg up on becoming his successor. Sean,
well, the other thing is, this is now the second prominent Montanan to step down. I mean, we were texting last night, like,
Zinke,
what's up here? I mean, why did Daines suddenly decide to do this? And of course, for Democrats, the Che Garcia fiasco in Illinois, where they engineered something very, very similar. I mean, Sean, do you think there'll be there's this independent, the former president of the University of Montana, or Montana University, who's running, said he would caucus with Democrats, but he's running as an independent. Sean, you think there's any chance that state's in play? No,
not statewide. I think so they've got 2 districts now.
Yeah.
I think the second's in play. I mean, could be in play depending on who it is. But I think statewide, it's not even close. It's you don't. This is like a lot of places. You got these blue little enclaves in metropolitan areas, and then the rest of the state. Montana's not in play. But I do think that this was one of those things where, like, what was the harm, right? You knew that. I mean, if Trump endorses somebody, especially in a state like Montana, it's a given. Like,
right.
So they could have easily done this. I'm interested, to be honest with you. I was intrigued on the Daines side. Like, there were no rumblings.
Yeah.
It doesn't, who knows what's going on with Zinke? At least with what Ryan put out, in the statement, talked about, eventual. I don't want to say health, but he said, hey, like, after years of being in the SEALs, I need to get some time to deal with some physical issues, health issues. And I don't want to be I want to be a full-time congressman if I do this. So he explained it a little. With Daines, I'm sort of intrigued. Why?
Maybe some money. I don't know. Like, if Daines has always been seen as somebody who could rise in leadership. So I was surprised by this. Like, he's young. He's young compared to Senate standards, 63. That's basically a baby.
Spring chicken. Yep.
Right? But look, like, he, a lot of Republicans are like this is they're considering they could be in the minority, although that's more unlikely in the Senate. And, like, they can make money right now. Daines could make a lot of money if he went into the private sector. So I don't know. I am curious to see.
So when people are wondering, just to put a little meat on that bone of what Rachel's saying, what happens is a big job may come up in Washington, head of a trade association. Some of these trade associations pay $5, $6, $7 million, and when they don't come open very often, and when they do, it is not unheard of that a member of Congress will think, I don't want to serve anymore. I will apply. They do it through headhunters. And they will say, because it's basically that they don't want to announce they have the job while they're still serving. So they'll announce their retirement, give a little bit of separation, and then it comes out they're the head of the, Chamber of Commerce or whatever. And so it will be interesting to see if perhaps there is a job in the not too distant future, because to Rachel's point, it's a Republican town. So Republicans have a leg up when applying for these big jobs right now.
Yeah, at least.
Well, not just, I mean, and it's not just the associations and stuff, Dan, right? I mean, you think about some of these people that are getting $30,000, $40,000 a month lobbying, you make $174,500 as a member of Congress. And suddenly you're saying, hey, you get 2 or 3 clients, you'll make a few $1 million. And you can go back to Montana and build yourself a much bigger ranch.
Or Absolutely. They say you want to be the new head of government relations for Anthropic, and we'll give you $10 million in stock grants. I mean, I'm not kidding. Like, if you know, our job is to give you an insight behind the curtain, folks. That is exactly how it works. And they're human. They have kids going to college, retirement, and they say, you know what? Sure.
make millions, travel the world, not work as hard. Hey, why not? Right. And we should just mention here that Burgess Owens, former football player, announced yesterday he's also going to be retiring. This was more, he said, he didn't say, but there's been speculation this is due to redistricting, right? That state, Utah, has 4
member on member.
Right.
But this is the thing that bumps me out is that we have, as Republicans, I think this is probably the highest number of Black Republicans that we've ever had. And you've got Byron Donalds running for governor in Florida, John James running for governor of Michigan, Burgess Owens now in Utah, Wesley Hunt out in Texas because of the Senate race. And it's a bummer because great members of Congress, I think just really good for the Republican image, to be blunt, in each case. And it's a bummer to see them go.
Dan, just very quickly, you remarked in our chat about Republicans racing to define James Talarico right now in Texas as this sort of far left wing progressive. Yeah. I mean, already they're going after him. Just very quickly, a word on that, and then we'll go to the Autopen.
Yeah, I mean, I just think Democratic kind of text message groups kind of lit up yesterday afternoon, because last night or the night before and in the morning, Democrats were kind of ecstatic. They preferred Talarico to Jasmine Crockett. They were thrilled that Crockett did the kind of gracious right thing and endorsed him and said she was going to help. But you saw, the opposition was laying in wait with their opposition research about all of these statements Talarico has made on camera about the border and transgender and abortion and all of these cultural issues. And it was a reminder that, the race now is on. Can Talarico and the DSCC and allies get out there and introduce Talarico to the broader Texas electorate on their terms? Or can Republicans get these clips to go viral, which some of them were yesterday afternoon? Yeah. And you had some Democrats yesterday saying like, oh, shoot, right? Yeah.
I actually had a pretty high level Republican operative say to me, like right after there was that viral moment at the State of the Union where Democrats stayed seated on that question that Trump posed on it and illegal immigration, somebody told me that they're especially going to try to use that moment with Talarico if he's the nominee, because he said like the border should be a front porch with a welcome mat. Like this is going to be problematic in Texas. I would say.
Here's the thing. If I'm Talarico, I come out and say very quickly, I meant legal immigrants, which is what Donald Trump says, right? We welcome all. But here's the thing. It is a reminder. Why wasn't he hit in the primary? Because Crockett was left of him. Mm-hmm. So being a moderate in a primary is very different than being moderate statewide in a general in a state like Texas. And so there's a lot of concern today that Talarico, you need money, you need to get those ads up, and you need to know and most good candidates would do self-opposition research. So they would know, here are all my vulnerabilities. I think there's a lot of people racing right now to understand what else may be out there, create a frame and get ahead of this because it's coming from Republicans.
Can I say two things about Texas? Number one, I think Texas is the Democrats' New Jersey. For us, like the media loves to hype this. I was at the RNC for 6 years. Every cycle, the story is literally baked in. Democrats think they're going to take Texas. My guess is that if we rewind the tape today and play it back on the day after the election, that the Republican candidate for the Senate wins by 6 to 8 points. And they're going to say, well, it wasn't this time, but next time. But I've heard this story now for over a decade. Every single cycle, the media loves to pretend that somehow Texas is in play. I'm telling you, James Tallarico is to the left of Beto O'Rourke. He is going down, and there'll be some BS excuse why the media isn't accountable for this on the day after the election. But he will lose between 6 and 8 points. The second thing is, we didn't really talk about it much, but the president made it very clear that he will endorse a candidate and expects the other person to drop out. Paxton was on with John Solomon yesterday and said, I won't drop out. Yep. And I think that, which I frankly don't think he will. I think that's
crazy. Wow.
And this will be a big fracture, right? I mean, I think this is the untold story. I don't think Paxton has he has earned a right to go to May 26th and play it out. Like, you say what you will, but the incumbent, John Cornyn, didn't get, I mean, for a guy who's been in office for 3 decades, he got I don't know, whatever, $50 million. He ended up getting 42% of the vote. There is a case Paxton has
100%.
that says, hey, I didn't raise even a fraction of that. I got within 2 points of the guy. By the way,
when the president, I mean, here's the thing though, like President Trump's endorsement has always been like super strong. This, like, if he doesn't get out, like, that's just like throwing water in the president's face, right? I mean, I understand he survived the scandal. He has survived a ton, but like, if the president is like sending you a signal, like, you don't think
I'm just telling you, again, part of our job is to tell you what's going to happen, not what we think. I think that Paxton is going to say, I love the president. I've had his back for 10 years. John Cornyn didn't in 2020. I've never wavered, and I respect the president, but I would be letting the people of Texas down. He is not. I don't see a way that he does this.
The other question is the degree of endorsement. Is it one Truth Social statement and that's it, or is Trump showing up in the state and doing a rap? Because if he just puts it out and then 9 weeks from now, Cornyn, to Sean's point, just saying, well, he gave it to me, but there's nothing else. And Paxton's just pounding away of all the times you were disloyal and Trump doesn't respond to that. Who knows?
By the way, to your point, Dan, if the truth says something like this, Ken and John are both good guys. I love them both. But in the interest of winning the seat, and that endorsement isn't like full-throated, which I think the president knows that Ken Paxton's been by his side. So I don't know that it will be. It's going to be hard then to turn that into you must drop out.
Also, what's he waiting for? Like, honestly, the longer he waits to endorse, the more I think he's having
maybe Friday night.
So we'll see. Okay, one more topic, the Biden Autopen. So the New York Times is reporting that despite the president pushing to investigate Joe Biden and these aides, his top aides, for this Autopen use on executive orders when he was president, DOJ was unable to make a case to move forward. And I read this, they basically abandoned the effort, but I read this and had two thoughts. One being that the DOJ has brought rather like faulty or like semi-flawed cases against the president's enemies before that hasn't stopped them, number one, but also like, how long until the president reads this story and there's a total 180 and switcheroo on this, Sean, and they pursue it?
It's 9:19 in the morning, Sean, just for context here. Yep.
Because we've seen this before. There's reporting literally in the New York Times that he's going after whatever university or dropping, going after the law firms. And then within 24 hours, it's like, okay, here's the case.
Rachel, you're taking my lines. Goddamn it.
I think it depends on who's briefing him. And what I mean by that is if the president wants to know that you're willing to fight for him and to fight for causes that are important, if they're coming up to him saying, Mr. President, here's the reality. We've tried this. The law says X, we're going to lose this case. And like, therefore we want to save face. I just don't know enough about the law. Meaning if he has lawyers, and this is generally some of the issues, he's got two sets of people coming into the Oval and saying, nope, we can win this case. Here is, Turrentine versus Bade. And it shows that we have the legal precedent to do this and then I think he sticks with this. If there's agreement among most of the lawyers that says, hey, we all want to do this, Mr. President, but we all are in agreement that it's not going to happen, that's a different story. I do think it depends on who's fighting for that issue or not.
Yeah, apparently it was Janine Pirro. It's her jurisdiction, right? And she has not.
Well, it's her jurisdiction, but you've got the White House counsel, you've got Boris Epstein, you've got a lot of people in his orbit that have opinions that he values.
Yeah,
I'll just go back to that famous Vanity Fair story when Susie Wiles apparently said, "Look, you get the first couple months to do this stuff, right? And then we need to move on." And it never moved on. They keep coming back to it. The politics of this stuff are turning on them. And I would also be a little nervous that I keep saying this, if Democrats get the power back and they start subpoenaing to get the records of how they pursued this, it could start to get uncomfortable. At some point, you just, walk away quietly from it. But
Dan, I have a question for you on this though, because I understand this notion that DOJ is definitely going after the president's, enemies. But is there any part of you that thinks a probe into this is legitimate, given that it's very clear that Biden was not all there and who's signing what and how's it happening? Is there any part of you that thinks, okay, looking into this is worth doing or fair?
Here's the thing, and I said this at the time, and I'll say it again. Autopens are used widely in government.
That's true.
Widely. In congressional, my first job as an intern on Capitol Hill for Rosa DeLauro back in the 90s was to at times use the Autopen for constituent letters. It has a pedal and you push it, and every office has an Autopen.
Situation, right?
Well, no, but so this is where I was going, which is the president of the United States is obviously is a huge executive branch, and decisions are made throughout the government every hour that never get up to the president. Only the biggest, most complicated problems require his or her attention. Where I think this gets a little sticky and was worth some inquiry were some of these really big decisions, like how much was he present? But it's less an Autopen to me and more just on the macro were decisions being made where either I don't think he necessarily didn't make them, but were there long delays where he wasn't having a good couple of days, and so we had to wait, more and more, because that's a national security issue ultimately. Yeah. But that's not where they were going. They were going with I believe, the gratuitous, they wanted the smoking gun of an email that said the old man isn't good today. Just sign the pardon, and aha, we got him. But there is legitimacy to that. I said it at the time.
Totally.
It's scary. It was very scary. Yeah.
I mean, it's a balance though for Republicans too, because they could look at this on the Hill, they could have done that, and they could have done it more, and they didn't. But you also want to turn the page and focus on your own agenda, right? Not look back. So I don't know. Did they make the right choice on that, Sean? Moving forward.
I kind of been with Dan on this. Here's the thing: the power of the pardon is absolute, right? Yep. So you have to prove intent. It doesn't say that it has. I mean, and by the way, there is a legal argument that says it does need to be signed. I'm well aware of that. I've talked to enough folks. But at the end of the day, part of this is if you go to Biden and he says, "Yeah, I knew this," or "I told Dan to sign it," and whatever, then he would have to admit, "I had no idea I ever signed these things." Right? Then that's the problem, and I don't see him doing that.
Yeah.
So the problem is, I'm with you with Dan. I think the bigger point is there were major decisions that were prolonged, and I think a look into his health and wellness and fitness is concerning. We didn't see the president for days at times. We didn't know what his status was. There is a legitimate look at the fitness for office of the last president and whether or not what we need to do going forward. But I do think that the problem with the pardon stuff is that, first of all, from the attorneys that I talked to, also, you have to challenge it. So you'd have to say, I'm going to prosecute
this
Rachael
one
Bade,
and this
who
one.
had a problem. And then Rachael Bade says, I have a pardon. And then you challenge the pardon, but you can't. So there's a process too. But look, I do think that we have more fruit to bear if we go after, was he aware of major decisions on economic policy, on national security policy, et cetera? Why was he hidden from his cabinet? How often did they meet for him? What did they know? What didn't they know? There is legit concern about that.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's take some questions. Okay, here's JB. JB, yes. According to a couple of different sources, Chinese TikTok is saying that the Iranian army has gotten into Tel Aviv, grabbed Bibi, and stowed him away in a basement in Tehran. Is their propaganda game actually that strong that people believe this? Sean, you're a huge TikTok fan.
Yeah,
especially no, TikTok.
I was ahead of the curve on this. First of all, like the answer to your question, JB, I do think people do believe this. I bet you there's a ton of people. You got to remember, it's not just us in the U.S. I'm sure there's some that do, but in a lot of places, like where they restrict who can see what, where, sure, that this is part of the reason that there is a propaganda machine. So I do believe that people are probably believing that he's not there and that there's a body double that the Israelis are putting forward or Mossad has control of.
Lord,
yeah, I mean, I'll just say that,
like so quickly. Sorry, Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, that this is the conspiracy theories and rumors out there that people believe are bonkers. And so whether it's this or the Pizzagate or like this is the world now. And we have our kids are on TikTok and they come with these conspiracy theories as like a ha-ha. But the fact that they see them and they like talk about them to me is horrifying, but it's out there.
Let's take another question. Okay. Super chat here. Tariffs ineffective, deportation slowed, inflation up, white collar unemployment up, more wars than 2024. What platform will JD run on in 2028?
Look, I don't think it's just JD. I can't tell you what a single person other than maybe Rahm Emanuel is going to focus on in 2028. I can't tell you. And that's why when people say who's going to be the nominee, who's going to win, it's like, got to give it time here. Got to give it time.
Sean, you're close to the advanced folks. What do you make of this? I mean, this is
well, first of all, I respectfully disagree with the premise. I mean, and I also think context matters. Think about where we were for 4 years. We just talked about a president who wasn't aware of what was going on, and now we're having a discussion about making the world more secure and more prosperous. Look, you may not agree with everything that Trump's doing with the borders secure. I think the economy's moving in the right direction and it's becoming a safer place. That is all good. And I think that Vice President Vance, who, I believe will be the nominee, will have a great success story. Plus, it's not just the thing. Each person has a narrative and he's got a great personal story. He's an unbelievably effective communicator, a beautiful family, a lot that he can talk about with his faith and his conversion to Catholicism that I think will resonate with a lot of voters. So I think, like, part of campaigning, I always tell people politics is marketing 101. I mean, it really is. At the end of the day, you are asking, when you have a product, right? So you're selling Coke, you want them to buy Coke, enjoy it, share. When you're in politics, you're asking them to buy a candidate, to vote for them. Sometimes buy them if you're a big lobbyist. But you want to donate, activate, put up a sign, volunteer, it truly is a marketing effort. And I think when you think about the vice president's ability to communicate, I think it's fantastic. I think he'll have a great narrative to run on.
It's also really early. A lot can change.
I mean, people thought Reagan and Clinton at this point would be crushed, and they thought H.W. Bush would be on Mount Rushmore. So, I mean, just give it time.
Who knows? Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's take another question. All right, Kim, question. Do you think there's a deal for a Cornyn endorsement and passing the SAVE Act, ending the filibuster? Assuming this, Kim, means the president goes to John Thune, who very much wants him to endorse Cornyn. I will endorse him if you blow up the filibuster and pass the SAVE Act. Interesting thought.
Oh, boy.
Oh, I think, look, Dan brought up yesterday this idea, and I actually ran it by a couple people yesterday. I said, I know that, Dan brought this up on the show, little out there, but is it? And people were like, huh. I mean, we're in a world where these kind of things could happen. I could actually see a deal where Cornyn says, hey, I'll go all in on this. We'll get this thing done. So, yeah, I don't think anything.
That's what you blow the filibuster over, a Texas endorse. I mean, maybe.
Well, listen, but Dan, it's not blow. Look, I'm going to tell you this right now. I think everyone I talk to in Texas that's not on Team Cornyn, that is for Ken Paxton, is going to be livid when this happens. And therefore, they need something. I would throw something in the water and say, this is what we're getting, and commitment, because I think, look, the president's endorsement is like literally the most solid gold that you can get in politics right now. Definitely. But I think there's a lot of bad blood in Texas. And
Kim, you've inspired an idea. You have Sean Spicer's endorsement now. Well,
so does Kim, just to be clear. Kim, you've got it too. Yeah. I actually think Kim's idea is a better short-term answer than getting Ted on the Supreme Court.
There you go. Let's just do one more. I know we're at time. I was trying to get more questions in today. Let's just do one more. We'll keep it tight, and then we'll be done here. Here it is. Question: latest Harvard-Harris poll shows 75% approve deporting illegal aliens, including 68% of Dems, 57% support deporting all illegals. Should Democrats drop this issue before the midterms? Can they? Dan?
So I'm just trying to think. Illegals, I think I don't hear many Democrats saying you should not deport illegals. Well, I'm just saying. Okay. Look, I think this is the ultimate NIMBY issue, which is if you say in a vacuum, should people who are here illegally be deported? People say, as a rule, 57% of Democrats say yes. When you say in your district, should the illegal, even Republicans say, well, not in my, do it over there because they're bad, not mine. And so I do not think Democrats are going to drop this. And I think even almost every single poll, the only issue Trump is above water on is the southern border. When it goes to this broader question, he's struggling.
Yeah. So I actually will disagree with the. I think the one thing I'll say on this, just at the premise, Bixby here, is how you ask a question in a poll matters tremendously. How you will get a response, right? So if you say, should we deport? And again, I'm just going to assume that the way that you've asked the question is how Harvard-Harris asked it. Should we deport people in this country illegally? I think you're getting a high response. Yep. If you ask the question the way the Democrats would like, which is, should you support people who've been in this country for decades, who are working really hard, who love America, who have flags in the front of their house, speak English fluently, like have fought for America in 3 wars, you're going to get a very different answer. And that's how Democrats want to frame it. And that's frankly what politics is about, is framing the issues that you support in the best possible way. Yep. But I believe, look, 2 things. One, Keith Ellison was asked this, the Attorney General of Minnesota, the other day. Should we deport? Bernie Moreno, fantastic question. Should we deport people who are in this country illegally? And he said, it depends. That was his answer. He said, it's a civil infraction. It depends on the person. So not all Democrats clearly do believe that. Number 2, in Virginia right now, and I will bring, I will say this
is a big issue. We haven't talked about it.
Big issue in Virginia, massive issue. I'm saving it for tomorrow. Hint, hint, who my loser is, Abigail Spanberger. But this is a massive issue in Fairfax County, Virginia. Yep. I am blown away, Dan, by the machinations that Abigail Spanberger is doing for a guy that's been arrested 30 times, killed a woman at a bus stop in cold blood, stabbed her, and refuses to admit that this horrible person should be deported. Like, I'm telling you, this is why I hope Bixby's asking part of the question. Like, this is not settled. And I think this is where the flip gets switched on this issue. The ICE things might have been, the ICE raids in Minnesota might have been a little chaotic, but at the end of the day, most Americans still stand by the idea that people in this country should not be here.
As a resident of Fairfax County, I have many thoughts on this too, Sean, but I will save them for tomorrow since we are now 4 minutes over. What do you got coming up on your show? It's Thursday panel.
I mean, look, thank you. I appreciate the fact that we've got the format down. This is super helpful. A lot, by the way, today, Jessica Anderson from the Sentinel Action Fund, my old colleague at Newsmax, John Bachman, and Elizabeth Pipko, who was on the 2016 campaign with me. And by the way, a huge outspoken supporter of Israel, will join us. But I think what I'm going to focus today a lot on is how the media has covered this issue, and then we'll obviously talk about what's going on in Fairfax as well.
You should play some of our clips from the first part of the conversation, media coverage of this. Sure. All right, guys. Absolutely. Well, we will be back tomorrow, 8:30. Thanks for joining.